Welcome to an overview of the Abolitionists investigation. In this investigation, you're trying to figure out how to respond to the question, how did abolitionists think and interact as they tried to end slavery? Today, as you begin learning about the abolitionists, instead of memorizing names and dates from a textbook, which is really hard and not particularly interesting, you will instead read and hear several different perspectives. You'll discuss with your classmates, and then make your own decision about what it all means. Read-Inquire-Write lessons are called investigations. Throughout each investigation, you're looking for evidence to figure out how to respond to a central question. You'll notice that our investigations never say answer a central question. Instead, you'll hear us ask you to respond to a central question. That's because we believe there is not one right answer. There could be multiple answers. So we want you to respond to the question with evidence. Read, inquire, write investigations support you in building a case for your argument using evidence and reasoning. Over time, this kind of work will strengthen your reading, writing, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. In this investigation, you're trying to respond to the central question, how did abolitionists think and interact as they tried to end slavery? Before we go further, we should explain two key terms, abolition and abolitionists. Abolition is the act of ending something officially or legally, and abolitionists are the people who tried to make slavery illegal in the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s. The New York Times has a special project called the 1619 Project, which also discusses slavery and abolitionists. However, the project has an article which argues that slavery is mistaught in American schools and that the abolitionist movement is misrepresented. Your task is to write to the 1619 Project. Determine which sources should be taught in schools to best tell the story of how abolitionists thought and interacted as they tried to end slavery. Include an evidence and reasoning and respond to someone who holds a different point of view. In this investigation, you will write a counter-argument. In this type of argument, the writer takes a strong position in response to a question or problem, providing evidence and reasoning to back up the claim. Then the writer introduces a different point of view, also known as a counter-argument, and critiques it. In other words, the writer shows why the counter-argument is weak. Our investigation will guide you step by step in developing your counter-argument. Let's review those steps now. First, you'll begin by building background about the Black abolitionists who were a critical part of the movement. Next, your teacher will provide you with different sources to read about the abolitionists. You'll use these sources to determine which ones should be taught in schools. To help you read these sources, your teacher will provide you with this bookmark. The bookmark tool will help you understand, analyze, and evaluate sources about the abolitionists. The bookmark prompts you to make annotations or detailed notes about the sources. You'll do this as you read and after you read. For example, here you can see that a student has circled important information about the people discussed in this source. The student also made notes about what those circles mean. You will do the same on your sources, and the bookmark tool will guide you. Making these annotations is really important because they will help you remember key ideas in the sources. This way, you don't have to try to remember everything or have to reread everything later. Instead, these annotations will make it easier to determine which sources should be taught in schools. In step 3, you will weigh the evidence presented in the sources about the abolitionists. You will begin by sorting the sources based on your understanding. Then you will construct and discuss the arguments based on what you have learned from these sources. Then in step 4, you will read and analyze a mentor text similar to the type of essay you will write about the abolitionists. A mentor text is a sample of writing that shows you one way to organize and write a counter-argument. It includes important parts such as counterclaim, counter-evidence, and critique of the counter-argument. It's a good example of the way you can structure your own response about the abolitionists. Just remember that the mentor text is not exactly what you'll write, and it is not a source. The mentor text is one example of what your essay might look like. Next, you'll use the planning graphic organizer. The graphic organizer is like a roadmap for your essay. It helps you organize your ideas about which sources are most reliable for learning about the abolitionists, and it will prompt you to give evidence and reasoning to support your argument. You will use all of the work you've done so far to help you develop this roadmap. You'll look at your annotated sources and you'll determine what argument you think is strongest and then make decisions to plan the essay you'll write. Then in step 6, you're ready to write your letter and respond to the central question, how did abolitionists think and interact as they tried to end slavery? Be sure to use the sources you have read to write your response and choose the strongest argument. We know it's sometimes difficult to start writing. That's why we also include a useful language tool. You can look at this tool to choose from examples of how to start your claim, evidence, and reasoning, as well as language to begin your counter-arguments. Finally, after you have spent some time writing, pause to use the reflection tool. The reflection tool will help you review what you have written so far and set goals for your next steps. The reflection tool reminds you about what to include in your argument. Let's review quickly the 7 steps you'll take throughout this investigation. First, make connections and build background. Second, read and analyze sources using the bookmark tool. Third, weigh the evidence. Fourth, analyze the mentor text. Fifth, complete the planning graphic organizer, deciding on the argument you will make. Sixth, use the useful language tool as you draft your essay. And seventh, review and improve your essay using the reflection tool. As you work through the investigation, make sure to talk with your classmates and others who can support you as you learn about and respond to the central question, how did abolitionists think and interact as they tried to end slavery? Good luck!